Welcome to our Black History Month event, Black Entrepreneurs in College Athletics webinar. I'm excited to introduce y'all to our two guests that will be sharing what it means to be a Black entrepreneur and how you can carry over the experiences and values that you're gaining as a student athlete today or in the past over into starting and establishing good businesses. Before we hop into who our guests are, just to share some background on CADSA in case it's your first time interacting with us. CADSA stands for the Coalition for African Diaspora Student Athletes. Our mission is to enhance the Black student athlete experience while making sure they are heard, supported, and welcomed. We do this through programming that promotes allyship, professional development, mental health support, and community development. Today, we are leaning into our professional development pillar, talking about entrepreneurship. And throughout Black History Month, that has been a main focus for us, not only looking back at how our ancestors and Black people in the past have contributed into the world, but how we can continue to do this in our own way. So I will get into our first guest, and we have Dr. Jen Fry. Oh, I'm going too fast. Welcome, Dr. Jen Fry. I'm happy to have you here today. I think I might have you muted, so let me unmute you just in case.
I got you.
Awesome. So Jen Fry is the CEO and founder of Jen Fry Talks and Quartal. She is a sports geographer, tech founder, and sought after speaker and educator. She owns Jen Fry Talks, a social justice education firm that explores the intersection of conflict and DE&I. She is currently moving her group travel app, Quartal, to the market. Quartal creates a seamless, inclusive travel experience by providing a central app for you to manage all your group travel, real-time information, communication, logistics, and decision-making. If you want to connect with Jen Fry, you can check out her Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Jen Fry Talks or her website at www.jenfrytalks.com. Thank you, Jen, for joining us today. And our next guest, we have Timothy F. Bryson, the founder and CEO of Walk with TFB, LLC. Tim Bryson is a Black millennial educator whose mission is to help all people identify their passion, inspire vision, and walk in their purpose. In June 2020, Bryson created the Walk with TFB podcast before soon starting his own business, Walk with TFB, LLC. Supported by his mission statement, Walk with TFB is a Black-owned consulting firm dedicated to helping all people and organizations take the next step in their purpose journey. Alongside being a founder and CEO, Bryson is a PhD student, Drake's #1 fan, and a craft beer influencer. Thanks for joining us today, Tim. If you want to connect with Tim, you can check him out on Instagram with Timothy FB Bryson or Twitter with Walk with TFB. And I think Instagram also is Walk with TFB for his business as well. Awesome. So I will stop sharing and we'll get into our conversation. So first question, just to set the stage and help our guests understand what it means to be a Black entrepreneur. Jen, to you, in 2023, what do you believe it means to be a Black entrepreneur?
You know, I don't think Tim realized that question was a little tougher than the first one, but I'm gonna go with it. You know, it's to know that you can do it, but the path there is filled with a lot of obstacles. Like, you've seen it be done, you know it can be done, you know there's space for your product, your service, like, you know it, but it's just filled with obstacles and obstacles and obstacles. And I think that's what it is, to know that that's what you're going to get into. I'll talk about this later, but I think a lot of people, and myself included, when I started my second company, I had a lot of visions of like cherry blossoms and fairies and you know, leaf colored houses. And that's not how that's not the reality of it. And I think it's also to be someone to understand that the knowledge you need, you're going to have to seek out, because your group is probably not going to have it. I think many times people think that because they get a little amount of knowledge from this person or that person, that they're set, and that's just fundamentally not true. Like, the knowledge that you need to run not only a business, but to potentially sell it for millions, to, like, whatever your plan is, that knowledge is gate kept really strongly. And if you are not really seeking out information and busting down doors and calling, you will not be successful, because unless you're in it, you're not going to understand, right? It's kind of like, You can talk about being in a championship game all you want. You can talk about what you do if that was me, until you're in that championship game with
Mhm.
that ball and that clock, you don't know shit. Like,
Yeah.
you really don't. You think everyone's like, oh, I do this, not with the sweat dripping down your face and everyone booing or yelling and the coach trying to yell. You don't know what you would do. And that's the same now. Like, you think because you got a taste of winning the championship in 5th grade that you would know what to do in the championship at the D1 level. It's the same thing now. Because maybe you went viral with 1 or 2 things, you're like, oh, I could run a business. Baby, you don't want to be like Wesley Snipes and Ron Isley in that tax jail because you didn't get good information. And I'll tell you how that was almost me $100,000 ago. So I'll leave that for Tim. But that's what I'm saying. Like, the little bits you got, it ain't even.
You're preaching. You're really preaching. And I think people have to understand that it takes time and consistent energy, and even energy you don't have, to get a little bit of success, and then to maintain it. We'll see about that. That takes a lot of time. So thank you, Jen, for that. Tim, what do you think it means to be a Black entrepreneur in 2023?
Yeah, I mean, I think the part I mentioned about time, right? Energy is definitely true. One thing I learned very quickly is that similar to how we think about how, job searching is another full-time job, like entrepreneurship LLC is a full-time job, bro. And someone who was was working full-time, was already in school to get my doc. I'm like, yo, like, I realized probably 2 months in, 3 months in, Jen, you have a story to tell as well. No, but I was like, maybe I should have waited a little bit, right? So instead of trying to scale the business up, I decided to scale the podcast instead, which is where I devote a lot of my energy. But the business is going to be ramping back up here very, very soon. Just given opportunities that I see. But to Jen's point, right, a lot of information knowledge is definitely get kept. I think another thing I'm learning, particularly right now, especially having my own business, but also working for minority-owned business, is that it's literally all about relationships, right? And I say that not in jest, but like literally relationships that are both mentorship based and sponsor based. And so I think a lot of, speaking in the college sports space in particular for this webinar, I think a lot of people talk about how they don't want to either work with non-Black people for whatever reason, right? Good and bad, or good or indifferent. But like, they have money, people got money. So whoever got the money, particularly from an entrepreneur standpoint, that you got to follow the money to see where decisions are made. And I think that's part of the hidden curriculum or hidden agenda, if you will, that's not always expressed or taught to Black entrepreneurs, whether younger, middle age or older. I think the last part that I'll mention is that, particularly in 2023, and I know this is Jen's specialty. And again, I love being on a panel with Jen because you used to be my idol, Jen. Now you like colleagues and whatnot. But around the movements, right? 2016, 2020, obviously COVID, Black Lives Matter, et cetera. But I bring that up because I think America and really the world is still trying to figure out who Black people are, right? How to value Black people, where Black people's place should be as we continue to try to make movement, right? And so I'm very deliberate in saying, like, walk with Tia B. You see, I'm Black, it's Black. Like, it's Black. I'm going to cuss, I'm going to show up how I want, like, it's Black, right? Period. I think that the second part to that, though, is helping the world understand that just because it's Black, it's not less than, right? Matter of fact, it's a value add to what I can bring to your organization, your conference, et cetera. And so is learning how to not code switch, but speak the language of different environments. And that's something that I'm personally continuing to learn as well, whether it's in college, sport, tech, international ed, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that last piece is really important to think about what you bring to the table, because diversity of thought is important and is becoming more valued in certain spaces and then trying to be suppressed in others. So as a Black business owner, as a Black entrepreneur, you're bringing in not only the diversity of thought, but that diversity of experience. And that's really important. So appreciate your response, Tim. And so we will get into these questions. I'll just volley back and forth, and feel free to converse with yourselves. It's just you two. So I know, you all are connected and either have had varied or similar experiences. So take your time with these questions. But before we hop in, I just want to pause and let everyone know that being an entrepreneur doesn't just start when you finish school. And something that CADSA wants to make sure that we continue to remind our communities is you are more than just a student athlete. You are more than just an athlete. You have that idea today. You feel you have the time, you have the background, and you just want to go for it. Take that step. You start now. You may hit some roadblocks. You may hit some speed bumps, but you hit them now. And you are in a space where you have a lot of support and a lot of help. So, take what you learned today and apply it to whatever you're thinking of doing whenever you feel it's right. But don't think you have to hold back just because you're currently playing a sport, you're currently in school. And so first question is going to be, What influenced you to start your own business? We all start with an idea, passion, and an experience. What was that for you too? And we'll start out with Jen.
Can I actually say something on your previous comment, what you just said?
Yeah.
I need athletes to understand that these 4 years, everyone in that school is just there for you. They
Mhm.
are answering your phone calls. They are talking to you. Their doors open. Baby, once you come across that screen and you have that diploma, them who? What? What? You need to you should be beating down people's doors at those schools. You should be asking for a list of donors, sponsors, alumni. Like you should use that school up to pieces, to shreds of paper. Like you should be so intentional and saying, whatever, if I want to have a business, whatever it is, I need to use the accounting people, the business, every part of that school should have your footsteps on it. And that's where I think the first thing that student athletes do is they don't use them being a student athlete at that school enough. You should be emailing everyone, I'm a student athlete, I'm a student athlete, can you help me? Can you help me? Because they will. Don't wait till you leave, because baby, them doors ain't going to be open like they will now. So I just want to have that caveat. So both companies, my first one, GenFi Talks, I started it because I didn't see that there was a conversation between race and sport the way I thought it should be. So I left college athletics in 2015. And back then there was maybe 1 or 2 companies, but they weren't talking about like the way I am, right?
Mhm.
Like the way Tim talks about, like I'm out here black. Like my message when I talk, like you know what you're getting when you hire GenFi.
Yep.
You know you're getting this person. And so I didn't feel like there were people who were talking about this the way I thought it should be talked about. I coached for 15 years. I don't think I had one DEI session. I don't think I had one identity. And so for me, it was like, I want people to learn, and I think I'm the right person to teach them, or I know I'm the right person. And it's funny because I remember I was talking to someone and they were like, well, so-and-so is hiring this other person. I said, they're probably gonna be good. They're not gonna be as good as me, but they'll be good. I know I'm really good at what I do because I made it a craft. And so for me, I was like, there's a space that I want to talk about it more because it's not being talked about the way I want to. And so I would tell people who are listening, like, if there's something that's not being done the way you think it should be done, then do it. Don't wait for other people to get your check, because when they get your check, the check you finally get gonna be a lot smaller. Like if you want to do it, then do it. And so I was like, I'm just gonna jump in and do this thing, and don't ask to be paid at first. Do not ask to be paid at first, because you are bad. You are really bad. And I see so many people who come up to me and they're like, I want to be a professional speaker. How do I get paid? You got to be good, and you got to hone a craft. You can't expect to be paid you can't be paid $20,000 on a craft you're honing. You have to do the work to get good at it. So that's what I did with GenFi Talks. Was like, there's a space and I want to talk about it, so I'm going to jump into it. With my travel app company, baby, I did it because, again, there was a space, and a professional speaker and the app are apples and friggin' semi-truck. And I am learning that. Like I was telling Tim, I'm in this incubator. I was in the woman who's leading it, her office, like crying today. And she's like, get it together. I'm like, okay. Like running this is difficult, but I saw that there was a space. And so when you see a space, jump into it, but no, it's going to be hard as hell in that space.
That, I think, is the part that people forget about. I think once they get in, it's going to be great. And I mean, they may expect a few problems, but no, the entire time is going to be a challenge. I will be honest, even just with CADSA, the entire time can be a challenge. But if you're doing something that you're passionate about, if you're really trying to solve a problem that you see, you'll keep doing it. You'll wake up every day and you're like, okay, we're back to it. So appreciate that. All right, Tim, what influenced you to start Walk with TFB?
Yeah, for sure. So the first thing is that my mission statement, right? Identify passion, inspire vision, walk in purpose. To your point, my friend, that was established my senior year in undergrad. Long story short, it's an hour-long conversation, but I got impeached as a president of Fraternity Council of South Carolina. And from that moment, I got asked to speak, to Jen's point. I'm at a school in Illinois called Millikan University. Shout out to Millikan for bringing me there. I was very grateful just for the opportunity to be flown out, if you will, right? Be put in a dorm, taken to Walmart, get whatever snacks I wanted, get this undergrad. Talked, I'm like, on stage, I started crying. I'm like, yo, like there might be something here, bro. Like purpose in a lot of ways. Long story short, someone had told me, right, to be a speaker, you need a website. So I started my website as an undergrad as well. And through grad school, started doing speaking engagements, particularly within fraternity and sorority life communities. Wasn't until I got to Maryland, fast forwarding the story, that I realized, similar to Jen's point, there wasn't a place where I could talk about education, that I could talk about sport, and I can talk about culture, particularly Drake references in particular, in one setting without having to code switch. And so I said, F it, like I'm gonna start it myself. So as I mentioned before, I started the podcast. The podcast was launched on June 2nd, 2020, otherwise known as Black Instagram Day, Black Square on Instagram Day. The podcast blew up, like 500 downloads in a week. I'm like, whoa, again, people are listening. But from that moment, I just said, okay, I want to really focus on this career piece. But again, as I mentioned before, I was moving too fast, faster than I could really keep up with. And so I decided to slow down. And where I'm at now, transparently, because someone on this call might have a plug, is pivoting my business to focus on internationalization efforts with organizations in both the US and globally. So how do I help connect businesses? How do I help businesses globalize their work while also ensuring that people they're connecting with, particularly the communities, they're doing so in a way that is justice focused and identity driven. And so again, a lot of it was need and opportunity. And as someone who struggles at times to focus on one thing, I definitely realized this is something that I wanted to make a change in. And again, no one can do it like I can.
I love that. And it's definitely for the plug. If you are connected to anyone either looking for these services or you have background in any type of international work, please reach out to Tim. Again, we have his contact information. And after this, when the video is posted, we'll make sure we tag both of our guests today. But thank you, Tim. I did want to jump back into the moving too fast. And there was a point that I think, Jen, you talked about where it was like, once you're in it, then you realize what you need to do. And I think people will try to plan too much or not plan enough. And so again, about the jumping in and Tim realizing, hey, I'm moving too fast, I need to back up, but he's still doing what he's doing. And if he didn't take that first step to start, even in undergrad, where would he be right now? He probably wouldn't even know that there was a too fast, or there's things that he needs to do before, there's steps he needs to take before launching another aspect of his business. So again, urge is, you all, if you have an idea, if there's something that you're trying to do, start now. It doesn't have to be a big step, but just start now. So thank you all for engaging with that first question. Our second question is going to get a little deeper into the challenges that you face. So, what was the biggest challenge that you overcame so far in the beginning stages of establishing your business? I know you both have had businesses for a few years now, and you're probably still dealing with challenges. You always will. But in those first year to year and a half, what was the biggest challenge you overcame? And Tim, I'll go back to you real quick.
Yeah, I think mine has to do with the market. So as someone who's now in this internationalization athletics space, that's a brand that's new. No one has done that or thinking like that in the same way. So for me, it's what is the market? And if there's not a market, at least for me, how do I then create it and demonstrate a need for an organization to bring me in and do what I do? But then the second part to that is market rate. What are people getting paid? And so shout out to Hunch, our mutual homie, very transparent as well. But I'll ask people straight up now, what people getting paid for different opportunities here? Because again, people going back to being Black in entrepreneur space, they start to pay us different amount, or try to pay us different amounts of money. I know, Jen, you talked about this before, as far as people getting paid less money, that lowers the bar for everybody, right? And so a quick example about that, as I mentioned before, the first speaking engagement I did undergrad, I did for free. The second one, I went to Marquette. They paid me $250 on top of the lodging and plane. I went back to that same school and I'm like, yo, people get paid for this. They give me $1,000, literally 3 months later. And I was like, there's increasing amounts of money that, again, people are not talking about if you don't know how to ask. And so for me, again, I think the challenge is basically figuring out what is the market, how do I demonstrate need, how do I communicate the need to college athletic professionals versus professional organizations versus US-based people versus non-US and Eastern, how do I communicate and find those people both in digital settings, but also in person settings. But then two, figuring out that understanding that what I'm building right now is not my full-time business. It's not my full-time employment. I still got a job I need to at least be decent at. Still got a school that I'm going to graduate in. And so how do I also create time to continue to devote, and as Jim said, hone my craft to be someone that people can trust and know will do a good job, when I get there.
Awesome. Got it. So it sounds like your challenges were more of where do you fit and what should you be compensated? What do you deserve? Not so much just what they want to give you.
I would say it started as where do I fit? Now it's that I belong, where am I going to add value? Gotcha. And so the summit that I'm hosting later this semester is an example of that.
That's a pivotal move to go from where do I belong to creating a space where you find the people that belong with what you're trying to do.
Exactly.
Awesome. All right, Jen, what was the biggest challenge or one of your bigger challenges in the beginning of establishing your business?
I think, it's a few things. It's like when you're a professional speaker, you have to be really intentful about things. You have to be intentful about what your appearance looks like. Like if you see me speak, what do I usually wear?
A dress, but definitely see your entire sleeve.
You can see my tattoo and I wear skirts. Like I'm very intentful about so the reason why I'm intentful about my skirts is I actually go and find fabric. I have them printed out because people will come up to me and be like, "Oh my God, your skirt!" Like those are really good things to get people talking. So it's like if you're a speaker, you have to think like really be thoughtful about what you're wearing, what's your trademark going to be, and making sure that your trademark isn't going to be expensive. And what I mean by that is someone's like, "Oh, my trademark will be my Jordans." You're going to be buying a lot of shoes if you speak a lot. Like it has to be something that is not going to break the bank. So I'd say like for me, it was like intentful about like what is my parents. I wanted to make sure that my tattoos were showing, my hair was out, like these things, because I want people in the audience to be able to relate to me. So I think that like figuring out who I was, um, that was a first thing because you have to figure out what you're gonna be comfortable in and what's going to look good. And so the very first time I spoke, I wore like a gray shirt and some black pants, and a friend recorded me, and I just looked very frumpy. Like it didn't look like put together. And I was like, okay, I can't have that. Like it was like a shirt that had a slogan on there, but I was like, this look doesn't look good. So, but what does look good? So that's the first thing. The second thing that I had to like figure out was like my messaging. Who was I going to be as a speaker? Because you can't just be on here rambling and ripping and running. You got to be able to have like a message. What are you going to do as a speaker? And really be thoughtful about how do you talk to groups. So for me, kind of like Tim, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna cuss. Like I'm not gonna be like, but I'm gonna say shit, like stuff like that. And so like, but what are you gonna be known for, like as a speaker? How are you gonna draw the audience? Because people don't think about like you have to have a craft. And so I would watch a lot of speakers and see what's their cadence, how do they talk about things, how do they make eye contact. Like I think about all of those things in relation to who I was, what my presence was, because my problem was like I didn't know what I was. The knowledge was going to come, but these other intangibles were really important for me to gain. So I would say like who I developed as a speaker. Also, I would say if you're a speaker, record yourself, because you'll see when you do vocal pauses. Vocal pauses are right, like, and once you record yourself, and just like somebody said, you can do a like some type of button, and you'd be like bing, bing, bing every time you do a vocal pause. You don't want to be like because you're saying so much. And there was a person I was going to work with, and they said every 3 to 5 seconds, where it became distracting. And so the first time I spoke, I said right a lot, and I was like, ugh. And so that helped me figure out like when was I saying right? Was it because I felt like I need to connect to the audience? Was it that I need to make sure that they understood me? What was the reason for those vocal pauses? So paying attention to that stuff was really difficult. Also, side note, I haven't even watched my TED Talk from 2019 because I'm like, oh, but it's a good one, but I still haven't watched it. So I would say my first problem was that there were big name players in the industry, and it was me. Like I'm going against corporations that have 30 or 40 people, and it's just me. And so it was like, how is Jen Fry gonna make this like step onto the large stage so that people want to listen to me? That was like my biggest thing. And really what I did was like, if you gave me a 5-minute chance, an 8-minute chance, like my first chance was really big was Black Student Athlete Summit. I had 8 minutes, and I said, so I offered up 2 things. And one was they wanted me to do a poster session, and the other one was to speak. The poster session was on like DEI. The speaking engagement was on fellowships, like Fulbright, Marshall, Mitchell, those type of things. And I was like, damn it, I wanted both. But I blew up that fellowship one, so people wanted to hear me talk on the other thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I made sure that you give me opportunity, I'm owning that floor, period. And so that was like my problem, was that I had to make sure that any opportunity I had, I blew it up, because I was going against big name companies that were easy to hire. And why are you going to hire this young Black woman who's new to the scene? I'm going to show you why, because your athletes are going to be like, we need to bring Jen in. Like this, we need her to come and talk to us. And so that was my problem with that. I'd say my problem with the app is knowing how valuable it is and that everyone needs it, but being able to get people to say, I need it. And there's a difference. Like we know the things that people need, but I want them to be like, yo, I need this app and I need to download it now. And I need to pay for it. Like it's worth being paid for, because y'all know 99 cents, you'll be like, pass. I'm not spending the 99 cents on that app. So how can I get people to pay and really want to pay for it? So that's like my issue right now is like, how do I get people to want it and finding that group of people that immediately will buy it and set that trajectory?
Yeah, it sounds like with the speaking, it's more about intentionality and making sure your brand is actually being
Mhm.
presented properly, and then you know how you're feeding into your brand. And then with the travel app, it's just, the same thing, figuring out how do you sell. It's still brand, but like selling yourself. Where is my audience? Who is my community? Who is my customer? And so for student athletes, understanding selling yourself is always going to be a big thing. I think a lot of student athletes get that experience when it comes to recruiting out of high school, but not that heavily because they're coming for you. But still, you have to make sure you're putting yourself out there in the right way. You have to figure out your image. You have to figure out what's yes and no. You already know who your customer in a sense is. It's the coaches, it's the athletic department. But when you're thinking about how to translate that over to a business, it's the same thing. How do you want to present yourself? What are you trying to do? And it sounds like for both of you, it was pretty much, who I am in the space, and then who am I trying to speak to?
Michaela, can I ask Tim a question? I think, Tim, you were maybe there one of the first times I spoke. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was like, this person is unapologetic is becoming a buzzword, but very explicitly Black, like on purpose. And I was someone, I think to your point, Jen, right? Especially for athletes and maybe on this call, I may listen after, or just early speaking, early entrepreneurs. I was someone who's like, all right, every time I speak, I gotta be in a bow tie. 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 And then I realized, like, yo, like, are you doing this for other people? Are you doing it for yourself? Now, trust and believe, the bow tie is still a Tuesday thing. Let's be very clear. And I will bust out a suit, but you're also gonna see the print tees, the print pants, the anklet, right? I got a sleeve now too. Like you're gonna see that stuff as well. And so it was figuring out, okay, like to your point, Michaela, I figured who I was and allow myself to blossom into that. But to Jen, your point, I think it was dope to see someone just themselves and then see the reaction they got from from the audience, right? From a community building standpoint, from a like, yeah, y'all gonna speak. Like, I'm not a professor. Y'all gonna say something back, right? And so I think one thing that Jen mentioned, Dr. Fry mentioned that he started calling you Dr. Fry. It's slipping, my fault.
Right.
Nah, because it's and you ain't like it, but I gotta hear it for myself, for my own inspiration. But one thing you mentioned that I don't want people to pass over is that like watching yourself speak, but also watching other speakers, right? And something I do all the time is watch podcasts. I watch podcasts all the time, literally all the time. And because we learn so much, just like you would at other sport, watching your favorite athlete, you learn so much from other people. So I don't want that to pass by. Is that like follow the people you may not like, follow people who are doing well, and learn, take, and then do it your own way. Because that's definitely another way that you can continue to identify your own X factor, if you will, in regards to how you set yourself apart or your differentiator in the market as well.
But also to Tim's spot, you got to know who's in the market with you.
Yes, you do. That's good.
I've had
That's
people come
good.
up to me and they're like, I want to be in student athlete. I'm like, okay, cool. You want to talk to student athlete? Who's in that space? I don't know. So if you don't research, if you don't have a research, you don't know what you're competing against, how you might be drastically different, the same. But that's why you gotta watch it, because then if they're like, well, we have this person who's already talking about, you can be like, but bam, I'm different and here are the ways. But you gotta research the hell out. Like when I tell you I know who's in my market, what they talk about, because I have to know that. And if you are like, well, I'm just good, baby, you're gonna be missing out. Don't be blindsided.
Yeah, you got to be different. Set yourself apart. Differentiators are really big. Again, you're selling yourself. You're a product and you're trying to find consumers. Thank you for that question for Tim. Our next question is going to be a more on the positive side. And what was the most rewarding accomplishment at period within your entrepreneurship? Any accomplishment, it can be even not related directly to your business, but just you might have just had that aha moment about yourself once you had started your business. Any accomplishment. And I want to broaden it a little bit because I think with student athletes to get very tunnel vision that if I'm not doing well on the field, court, pool, whatever, then I'm less than. But your experiences contribute to who you are as well. And you can have a win even in a loss in every experience. So we'll love to hear about your accomplishments, and we'll start with Dr. Fry. I'm going to start putting the respect on you because you worked hard for that.
Man, I would say, to me, I would say a big accomplishment is, so a part of having an app is like you have to fundraise, and people don't talk about how you have to fundraise money and the different avenues. And so I was doing like a friends and family round, which is like a smaller round. And I just put it out like, hey, this is what I'm doing to people I know. And my volleyball coach from when I was 17, like she knew clusterfuck 17-year-old Jen Fry. Babe, bless her heart. She like knew me, she recruited me, she loved on me, she loved my mom. And she was like, yeah, I'm interested in donating to your company. And I'm like, but you knew me like at 17, because people know you through different seasons of your life. And unfortunately, if they don't know the new you, all they do is revert back to the old you, right? So like, I kind of keep that in mind. And so she knew me at like 17, 18, 98, 99 Gen Fry. And I asked like, well, why would you want why would you want to invest in my company? And she said this, and it blew my mind. She said, I have been following you through the years and watching your career grow. And she says, everything you touch turns to gold. And I want to be a part of that. And I was like, damn, like people are watching you and you don't realize they're watching you. And I'm thinking this 17-year-old, right? Like she knew me at 17. I'd maybe, hey, how's it going? I'd see her occasionally, but she's known me for 22 years. And to say like, I've been watching you and everything you touch turns to gold, like that really hit me. And that's something that sits with me. So when I'm having like a really hard day, when I'm crying over my app, when I'm frustrated, I think about this woman who saw me at 17 and says that about me. And that like is wild. And so I'd say that's like one of my greatest accomplishments, is that people know. And I don't even think at 17 I had a work ethic. Let me not lie. Like I watched video of me playing in high school and I was mortally embarrassed. Like I was the worst teammate known to man. I want the VHS to burn. Like luckily no one has VHS, so I don't even have to worry about anyone watching it. But I didn't really work hard. And now I would say the thing I'm also proud of is like my ability to work. I will work. Like, so you, like when I tell people, like when you invest, you know, you're investing in someone that's going to work. And that to me is important. And I'd say the last thing that I'm proud of is my ability to pivot. I think people don't think about how important the ability to pivot is. Like Tim said, like this motherfucker said, pow, 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 right? You have to be able to pivot. And that's what I've done. Like with my company, I said, I feel like I'm talking more about conflict. What does it look like that we change to be at the intersection of conflict and DEI? Because what does it look like to talk about conflict before we talk about DEI? And so the ability to pivot and be forward thinking. So those I think are like my greatest accomplishments. I'll pivot, and Dawn, my chief of staff, like what's not working, let's go. And if you're willing to pivot and pivot smart, man.
I love that. I love that you went back to think about not so much as something that you like did specifically, but just knowing that someone could see you and what you were already doing was giving a positive impact and light on yourself. So that's amazing. Literally fed into what I'm saying about it. It doesn't matter in the moment. You may be thinking I'm doing terrible. I'm not training well. I'm injured. I'm this, I'm that, and the third, but somebody is proud of you for whatever work you've put in. And then the work ethic part, I think, is a piece that folks don't talk about. You can develop a work ethic. A lot of people will talk about Kobe Bryant had amazing work ethic, but do you think he had that work ethic when he was 15? Maybe he didn't. Even if he did, you can learn from other folks and decide, I want to be a better person. I want to reach this. I want to do that. Figure out what it's going to take to get there, and then mold your work ethic after that. So I love that you touched on that piece as well. Tim, greatest accomplishment so far. It can be with your business or just personally.
Yeah, I would say two. The one is, again, business is called Walk with TFB. And so anytime someone says we're walking or let's walk, or is this thing, anything related to my podcast, is a proud moment, because I think it's indicative of how they see themselves in the work that I'm choosing to do. So I'm big on the community building space. And so understanding like, we got to go, like there's urgency here. We got shit to do, right? I think the second thing is a summit that I'm planning and we'll be hosting in April. So this was literally an idea. I don't know. I've been trying to think about when and how I thought about this, but somehow in October last year, I was like, fuck it, I'm going to throw this summit. We're going to talk about internationalization in sport, and have as many people from as many continents and across the globe on the same call. And so to the point, I'm proud, the proud moment, if you will, is being able to pick up the phone or send an email to somebody, particularly influencers that I know or decision makers, and be like, yo, that's what I'm doing. And it's like, no hesitation. It's like, yep, I'm in, right? And so being able to have NFL, NBA, USOPC, Basketball Canada, Women's Sport Australia, like what? Like just a black kid from Cincinnati, Ohio, doing like global work. And so again, that's just indicative of what belief in the impossible looks like, especially when you surround yourself with a team that believes in the impossible with you as well.
That's amazing. Please give us some more information on the summit. If you are still accepting attendees, sponsors, whatever that looks like, so we can share that. And from yours, Tim, it's like dream big and stay dedicated to what you want to do, because it can happen. I'm sure when you first thought about the summit, you're like, all right, it's going to happen in like 3-4 years. I don't know. A lot of the times when we think about the things we're going to do, we think it's going to take forever, when really it just takes one specific action. And if you're not taking action, then you won't get there, obviously. But congratulations on that. Excited to learn more about your summit. So we've reached our last question, which I'm going to pause and just let the audience know, if you have any questions, please get them ready to go. It's going to be your time to shine. And if you don't have any questions, I mean, I can let them chop it up even more, or I can let them go. But bring your questions now, or don't forever hold your peace. Send them an email. They keep talking about you got to reach out to people. So if you're interested in anything that they said, please reach out. If you are a little shy, reach out to me and I will connect you. But you just reach out, take some action. What did you say? You got to walk? Let's get walking. So our last question is going to be, what advice would you give student athletes about starting and maintaining a successful business? And I know the maintain part is, any day something bad can happen, but really starting, I think for a lot of student athletes, including for myself, and just thinking about getting into community work, nonprofit work, we just don't think it's something that you can do as a young person. Often you're in spaces that you have established people around you, and you know that you have something to contribute, but you're a little scared, or maybe you're not around people who are doing what you want, but you have an idea. What advice would you give to those student athletes who are looking to step into starting their own business, whatever that may look like? And then how do you want to encourage them to stay with it? Let's go with Tim.
Take a note real quick before I say this part. Jen, if everything you touch, if you got the Midas touch, if you will, I'm gonna need you're in Baltimore. I need to touch this beard real quick, because I got some spots that are still missing.
Baby, you asking for a Jesus. I ain't got that type of act. You asking for a lot. You want me to help you fundraise? Cool, but you want that?
Hey, I just had to bring that up again. I had to speak that out in the atmosphere, Michaela. I'm sorry, but
No, it's okay. I literally just watched a video of a dude who went to Australia to go and get implants into his beard. So I mean, if you're interested, I'm gonna send you the post and connect with
my bad. Let me get back on topic. Two things I would say. A book I read, I'll put in the chat. It's called Forget a Mentor, Find a Sponsor. And I think I read this book either late undergrad or early grad school. But we know non-white people and women in particular are over mentored and under sponsored. And so being able to just understand what a sponsor is, what it means. But then the second part to that is how to identify that, right? So both sponsors and influencers, decision makers in your space or in your industry, if you will, that can help to introduce, open doors, take risks, et cetera. The second thing is really building a team, identifying a team. So when I was in Maryland, and even I say this to people now, like when I was an undergrad, I'm like, yo, you say you want to be a doctor, you say you want to be a lawyer, you say you want to be that, that's gonna happen, right? Like it's gonna happen. So if I connect with you now, right, develop along the way, I'm gonna have a doctor friend, a lawyer friend, a PT, a car like that. And so identifying the people who are on your team now and who will be on your team later, and developing and cultivating those genuine relationships with them, because again, I think especially as undergrads, as we'll continue to say this, you grow together. So a lot of the team I have now are people I've been, kicking it with literally since South Carolina at the house party, or people I went to grad school with. And so there's trust there. There's demonstrated, demonstrated results there as well. I'm just being able to be myself, to be like, yo, right now, Sophie's my chief of staff. Chief of staff. Like Sophie, I got an idea, like we got to go. And so she's someone that's going to be there to bounce ideas off of, but also continue to help me push the business forward, push the ideas forward, even when I may not want to as well. So team and definitely sponsorship are huge. I think I put that book in the chat as well.
Yep, I got that. And we'll make sure to share that out with everybody. Thank you, Tim. Jen, what is your advice for student athletes that want to get into this entrepreneurial space?
I think you have to be very honest about your time commitment. I think that I see a lot of athletes who are like, I'm going to do this, and you don't have the time. Like you literally don't have the time. So you have to be honest with yourself. And it might be like an idea like Tim, where I'm like, I have this, but I want to put it on slow burn because I just don't have the time to manage it. Because, the thing with athletes, especially higher level athletes, is the ability for something to go viral can happen a little quicker than they're prepared for. Because everyone, oh shit, you just were in the Sweet 16, right? If a team ends up going to Sweet 16 in March Madness and someone has a shirt, that shirt will sell out fast. And they're just not prepared. They have no infrastructure with that. So they have to just be, I feel like, very honest with their time. Like, do I have this great idea? Do I have the time to do it the way I want to? Because I think there's nothing worse than having this idea, starting it. Everyone's now asking you about it, right? Oh, Tim, I saw that shirt. How do we get that shirt? And now you're stressed out because you can make money, but you got this, you got that. And so you have to be honest with your time. I think that's really, really important. I'm finding out juggling two of them, right? Like I have to be honest with my time and how I use my time in a really smart way. So I think that would be one. I think, again, like I can't reiterate, you need to reach out to everyone on campus. The entrepreneurship lab, like literally go through and make it your goal to just meet with everyone, talk about your idea, have them like help you nurture it, figure it out. Okay, do you have people you can connect me with? Like, I think that's a really good thing to do, because then you're massaging it more versus I'm gonna throw this idea out and that's it. And also, you need to really talk to people about money. You need to talk to accountants. You need to talk to people who look at contracts, because I see a lot of athletes getting taken advantage of because they're like, oh shit, Tim's company is gonna give me $200,000. Sweet. And then what he doesn't realize is that his shady agent is asking for 80% of it, right? And you still gotta pay taxes on the 200,000. And so, like, get an accountant, because I had an accountant, but he wasn't good for businesses. And he had me almost owing like $90,000, where because he was like, yeah, just send in a little bit and then they'll send you something back. No, IRS wants their money. I see a lot of athletes who are like, if I just don't tell them, baby, the IRS will find you. You can switch addresses every 2 days. The IRS will find you. And the one thing you don't want to have is this huge tax bill, because they want their money and they want it now. And you get penalties and interest, and it just keeps accumulating, and they put like a 30% interest on that. And so, like, you need to, like, if you're going to start making any money, you need to have at least some connection with an accountant that can help you navigate that. Because I don't want to see, I have a fear that what we're going to see in the next few years is a lot of athletes with huge tax penalties, because they spent all the dough quickly. They didn't put the 38% away for taxes and the 10% for their agent and the percent for this, and they just spent it, right? And so now they owe money. They owe the IRS and they have no way to pay it. So I fear there's going to be a lot of athletes who have huge tax bills from this. And so those would be my two things, is to like really think about your time, and to also think about having someone that can help you with money. Don't use like a friend's accountant. That's why I use, no. Go to someone that you don't know who is certified and talk to them about what you're doing and get some idea, because it will save your future.
That is a big point, especially with NIL. And you are still, I'm not going to say a kid, but you're still, in a sense, a kid. You haven't experienced probably paying taxes at all. Most of us don't pay taxes until like second year out of college. So I would definitely suggest you all take that advice, even if you're not in college anymore. Don't even do your own taxes. Let somebody else do it. It's going to save you a lot more money. And
there is a link. Let me see. There is actually a really cheap free taxes that I'll put the link that can help you out. That literally will do it for you for free. And so it's like, find someone to do it, because man, it will really get you.
It will. Well, I thank you both for your advice for our student athletes and non-student athletes, just people out there that, you know, need some help when it comes to starting a business or just getting better with what they're doing right now. Again, I'm checking the chat. I don't see any questions. That must mean y'all did a great job being clear. But if y'all are just being shy, please make sure you reach out to Dr. Fry and soon to be Dr. Bryson, Tim Bryson. Reach out to them. We will be posting their contact information. We've already posted it, but we'll post it again along with the video. You'll be able to click on and get to them. And then if you are still too shy to reach out, let me reshare. You can always reach out to CADSA directly and we can help connect you. We will also share these links that both Tim and Dr. Fry have been gracious.
Wait, can I ask Tim a question?
Yeah, of course. Let me stop sharing.
Tim, what is one thing that you wish you knew now coming out of your LLC? not the podcast, but like, you're like, this is something I wish I would have known that would have helped me out.
What I could expense.
Mm.
What I could expense. And so I mean, there's been a couple people who are trying to tell me you can expense dry cleaning, you can expense obviously meals, you can expense. I mean, just start listing shit. I'm like, damn, you can expense all that. And such I travel, I travel a lot too. So understanding that process sooner. I mean, even now, like being able to just lean into that more would be huge. I think we're not just being obviously saving money, but also being able to meet different people, travel how I want. And I mean, shit, two birds, one stone. You need to travel and conduct business and write it off. Yeah, I like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, definitely expenses, deduction of expenses. It's a good
Makes
question. What you think though?
Um,
I got a question for you
I
too. Podcast mode.
okay, okay. I would say something I wish I knew. I think sometimes in DEI, ooh, no, let me rephrase that. Something I wish I knew. That like you're gonna be okay.
Did she freeze?
I'm trying to think. Is
Yeah,
she?
I think she froze.
It's a great pause though. Hold
It
on.
was a good part. I thought she was just talking.
Let's see.
Let's see.
Hold on.
She's still. Oh, you're back, but you're muted. Oh no.
Okay, so I'm good. So can you all hear me?
You're good
Yep.
now. Mhm.
Gotcha.
Okay, I would say like something I wish I knew in it is like, well, two things. A, like you will literally blow your own mind. Whatever you think you were gonna do, you're gonna blow, like you will blow
Mhm.
it out of the window. So many people are like, I'm gonna do this and this, and you will, like, for my company, I have done stuff that has blown my mind. I never thought I would be on this scale ever. Like you will blow your mind. And also the other thing is that like it's good, there's gonna be points where it's gonna be so friggin' hard and you'll get through it. Like it's gonna be really, really hard. And you're gonna cry and you're gonna be like, man, bump this. I'm just gonna go work. And you're gonna get through it. And
Mhm.
those are things like because during that, like when you're in those moments, you just don't think you're gonna get through it. And you will.
Let me the follow up to that then, right? Because I think
Yeah.
many athletes will want to become speakers, right? Like, especially looking at
Hmm.
Will Baggett, DKR, shout out to them, monetize your
Hmm.
message. But when did you know? And yeah, when and how did you know when to increase your rate, right? Whether it's all inclusive or your honorarium.
Oh, that's good. So it's funny, when I started out, I think the first, I would just take speaking engagements for free just because I had to work on it, right?
Sure.
And so then I got one, and this is how random people get speaking engagements. Like I think so many people are like, you have to do all this marketing. No, I did this random podcast at the volleyball convention. Like it was just a bunch of people. We were just BSing. It was super random. And this woman at a school, actually it's in Baltimore, was like, yo, I heard you on this podcast with the head coach of this and that. Would you be willing to come to speak to my school? It was like 400. It was a school of all boys, like 400 my first time. And I was like, oh, $1,000, because you don't know. And I
Yeah.
talked to my friend Dan Fail, and he's a professional speaker. And I was like, I don't know how much to charge. And he was like, how much do you charge? Oh no. He was like, no, no. And he's a white guy. He's like, no, you have to get a lot higher. He was like, you need to start between 25 and 3,500. This is what you need to expect. But he was like, you don't do that.
Yep.
And so from that, it's been really like the market will tell you how much you're worth. And like to just say like, okay, I feel at this point to increase my price because you're paying for my experience and knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
Like and to increase it. And I'll never forget, Victoria and I were making this large contract that was almost six figures. And she was like, oh, do you think like we should charge 7,500? And I was like, this is a Fortune 500 company. No, we should charge 75,000. We charged 75,000. They said yes in 2 seconds. And we realized at that point, we severely underpriced ourselves because they were like, yes, absolutely. What can we do the play? And we were like, damn it. And so we knew that we severely underpriced ourselves because of how fast they responded. And so some of it, you have to figure out market research. You have to figure out, like, is this the right time to up your rate? Or is this the right group to up your rate to? Like, you have to really be cognizant of all of that stuff, because here's an analogy that really helped me out, Tim. I just remembered it. So, and it sounds bad, so I just want to preface it sounds bad. So imagine you're cooking a frog. If you just go from $1,000 to $15,000, if you just have a pot of boiling water and throw the frog in, it's going to jump in. It's jumping out, right? Because it knows it's being cooked. If you put the frog in the pot and gradually increase the temperature, it's not going to know it's being cooked.
Mm.
So you want to gradually increase your price. So it's not this like, what? I knew last year you were charging $2,000. Now you're charging $15,000. What? So you want to do it like you're cooking a frog, as bad as it sounds, that you're gradually increasing your price. And one thing I do is loyalty will always pay. So the people that worked with me in 2020 will always get that price. Always. I always pay loyalty because I tend to see people who don't do that, who will like they'll just keep upping the price for no one. For me, loyalty will always pay. They'll always get that same price that they started with because I want people to stay loyal to me.
Yeah, I think, Tim, you had your reason for asking that question, but I think it's important to think about scaling. How do you scale? And what does scaling look like? And that's really good advice on how to scale. I never really thought about, the folks you started with, probably should keep them as low as possible if it's not what they actually paid in the beginning. Tim,
and they'll give you they'll give you testimonials too.
They're going to probably refer your business a lot too. So, yeah. I didn't know, Tim, if you wanted to respond to that or not. I know you would ask.
No, I think the testimonials to Dr. Fry's point, the referrals are good, but I think something that someone told me was that if people don't know what happened and if people don't know about it, it never happened. Right. If people don't know about it, it never happened. And so being able to either the testimonial piece, right, even in this recording, right, being able to go back on YouTube, cut it, post it on my personal social, like to show like we out here, we're speaking. And so again, I think there's a lot of hesitancy right now, particularly within, I think, Gen Z. I'm gonna call y'all out, call them out, particularly because like Instagram's got 3 posts, bro. Like you gotta post, right? People post all the time on TikTok. You gotta post, like LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever platform, but you gotta post, right? Because you're not gonna get speaking engagements wearing a football helmet or a volleyball shot or a soccer shot in your profile picture, nothing in your bio, and 2 photos, one of which is from high school prom, if you will. Like you gotta post. And so getting out of your comfort zone and posting and really showing the world who you are, which to your point, Michaela, goes back to the NIL piece, because again, this was not intended to have third-party providers like Mogul or Market Price or Open Doors or Influencer facilitate deals for you. Like that was the issue in the first place, like control. Like this is an opportunity for you to take ownership of your learning and your entrepreneurship journey and monetize or leverage how you deem fit, not how someone is telling you to do so.
Exactly. Whole point of being an entrepreneur, being able to control the narrative, control what you're worth, control all of that.
Exactly.
We are almost at the bottom of the hour, so we will wrap up. Just want to share CADSA's information in case you want to get in contact with us or any of our guests. You can reach out to us either via email on our website, Instagram, LinkedIn. My name is Michaela Adolphus. I'm the director of CADSA. If you have any more questions for our guests, please reach out and look out for the recording on YouTube, our website, and some of the snippets coming through on Instagram. I appreciate our guests today. Thank you, Dr. Fry and Timothy Bryson, for giving us your time and your knowledge. I hope that this session, if you watched it live or if you're going to watch it in the future, this helps you. This helps you launch a business. This helps you take your business to the next step, and you take that extra step to get moving and, reach out to somebody. All right. Happy Black History Month to everyone. Have a great night.
Peace.